Next on Worcester News Tonight, we get a look inside new state-of-the-art apartments in downtown Worcester. Plus, the Ecotarium welcomes the newest addition to their wildlife exhibit. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Anna Botari. Those stories in a minute, but we begin with new story tonight. Boston police are charging a Worcester man with murder. Police say 31-year-old Jeremy Correa fatally stabbed a man Tuesday afternoon. Police identified the victim as 50-year-old Edward Sanchez. According to police, Sanchez was stabbed shortly after noon Tuesday in the area of Southampton Street. He was taken to an area hospital where he was pronounced dead. Correa is expected to be arraigned Thursday in Roxbury. Just a few months after opening, the apartments at 145 Front Street in Worcester held an open house for potential tenants. The new state-of-the-art facility offers another 200-plus housing units into the city. Tonight, we're hearing from management, and they're hoping to set an example for the city. Our Cam Jandro toured the facility tonight and joins us now with more. Cam?
Anna, when compared to other living complexes across the city, the units at 145 Front Street are very different. This also leads to them being a bit more expensive, but management at the facility say you get what you pay for.
An open house at the apartments on 145 Front Street. The City Square development is one example of new housing being built in Worcester. Operations manager Christy Fusco says there is some pressure to show off the property to prospective tenants, with many other options now available.
There's always competition. You always feel that pressure that you want to perform and do well and be ahead of the competition. But I think that we are. I think we're all very confident, like I said, in our products.
145 Front has more than 200 units, with prices ranging from $1,400 for a studio to $2,000 for a two-bedroom. They say Boston rents are too expensive, and they're hoping to attract a crowd outside of Worcester too.
You know, if you want to work in the city, even something like this in the city of Boston would be much more expensive with all the amenities. So I think we kind of would fit nicely for commuters as well.
The complex has leased about 80 units since opening in February, averaging about 5 signups per week. Director of Operations Michelle Fontaine expects things to get busier in the spring and summer months.
We also opened in the winter, so not the greatest time of year for opening, but as the snow melts and people are out and about, just kind of seeing more foot traffic.
Amenities include full concierge services, a gym, and sports recreational facilities. And being just feet from Union Station and City Hall, 145 Front's management sees location as a key factor to their success.
We're directly across from the train station. We're across from some really great employers. It's very centrally located, walkable to a lot of different restaurants and shops and things like that. This area is really being built up.
Now, later this summer, 145 Front will be opening a second building, increasing their total number of units in downtown Worcester to 365. Anna?
Those look really nice, Cam. Thanks for that. The Ecotarium introduces its newest addition this week. He's already adapting to his surroundings and greeting museum visitors. Meet Bob. He's a male bald eagle about 7 years old. He came from the Audubon Society in Florida. The society usually takes injured birds, rehabilitates them, and then re-releases them into the wild. However, Bob was unable to be fully rehabilitated, so he was given to the Ecotarium for permanent placement.
Gives us a new opportunity to build a relationship with his keepers and enable us to move further along and progress in our programs that we're able to offer with our animals that we have here on site, further connecting people to nature when they come to visit us.
Justice was the Ecotarium's eagle before Bob. Justice was thought to be one of the oldest bald eagles under human care before his passing. He was believed to have been 44 to 46 years old. Massachusetts State Police save a bird on Interstate 84 in Sturbridge this afternoon after it was hit by a truck. According to Massachusetts State Police, a man called in telling them he hit the bird with his truck, but the bird was still alive. A trooper from the Sturbridge Barracks was able to scoop up the bird, who was injured, and transport it to Tufts Wildlife Clinic in Grafton. Tufts identified the bird as an osprey. They plan to pin its wing and hopefully help it heal. Mass State Police also assisting a dog in need today. Police say they got calls about the dog running down the middle of I-90 in Worcester this morning. Trooper Nick D'Angelo luckily had some homemade deer jerky to lure the pup in. Dozer, the dog, is now safely back with his owner. It's the time of the year where gypsy moth caterpillars are back, but will this year be worse than others? The small insects are starting to pop up across central Massachusetts, and one local expert say they just started hatching within the last few weeks. Our Brittany Schaefer has more.
We've actually drilled holes and then we inject that with a systemic material.
Gypsy moth caterpillars have returned in central Massachusetts. Bartlett Tree Experts is helping this home in Shrewsbury fight back against the pest.
When the caterpillars go to feed on the leaves, they die. It's a very effective way to preserve a tree in a very environmentally sensitive area.
Local manager Julian Reese says the hairy insects returned last week and is keeping the business busy.
We are fairly booked out with calls. We're stretched pretty thin, and we're doing our best to keep up and to help as many people as possible.
Nicole Kelleher is a forester for the state's Department of Conservation and Recreation. She says the gypsy moth caterpillars hatch in early May, but the numbers shouldn't be as bad as the past couple of years.
In some areas, we saw over 90% of the caterpillars die off from the Entomophaga omega fungus and an NPV virus. But 90%, if you have 100 million caterpillars and 90% die, you still have 10 million caterpillars. So they still are out there this year.
And fewer caterpillars is welcome news to Sam Naloni, especially after last year's infestation.
Last year, they were everywhere. They were in the trees, in my room for some odd reason. They were just everywhere you stepped, in my pool. There's no shade anywhere on this whole street. I hope they do not come, and if they do, they go away very, very quickly.
Reese says residents have limited time left to protect their trees from the caterpillars.
One of the greatest challenges is calling too late and the panic that causes.
Once you have the really big, noticeable, hairy caterpillars, it's too late to really treat for it.
Kelleher says infestations like the past couple of years come in waves of about 15 to 20 years, so she says hopefully it'll be a while before the next one. Brittany Schaefer, Worcester News Tonight.
The man charged with killing a Shrewsbury police officer more than 40 years ago is denied parole. According to the Worcester County District Attorney's Office, the parole board said Edgar Bowser lacked empathy and a sense of responsibility in the killing of Officer James Lonchitis. Lonchitis was shot in the heart in 1975 during a car theft. Bowser was granted parole in 2007, but sent back to prison in 2010 when he tested positive for cocaine. He can appear before the board again in 2022. There are always risks when fighting a fire, but the Worcester Fire Department says abandoned buildings can be even more dangerous. This week is National Arson Awareness Week, and the focus is on reducing fires in vacant buildings. Our Chandler Walsh explains.
Boarded up windows and red markings. It's a familiar sight for the Worcester Fire Department, who regularly inspect vacant buildings.
Make sure they're aware of them and kind of have a pre-plan in mind. Our fire inspectors also go out, they'll look at them, they'll respond to any complaints about them being unsecured.
Deputy Fire Chief Martin Dyer says fires in vacant buildings can be more dangerous. He says the department marks the buildings if they could put firefighters at a greater risk.
If it's going to be a danger to our firefighters, if we feel like there's holes in the floors or there's deterioration of the foundations enough, or whatever the case may be.
Dyer says a fire in a vacant building can also be more dangerous to neighborhoods. He says they can take longer to put out and sometimes can only be fought from the outside.
In these close-knit neighborhoods where the close houses are right on top of each other, really big issues with exposure. And yes, if the fire can grow to that point where the house next to it catches on fire, now we have a much larger problem.
There were 2 vacant building fires in Worcester over the past year in the same neighborhood. The causes are still under investigation, but neighbors wonder if they're suspicious.
It just seems odd. How does a building catch fire where there's no utilities and there's no one living in them?
We've been keeping an eye out ever since because We really, everyone in the whole neighborhood suspects it's arson.
The fire department encourages people who live near vacant buildings to watch for unusual activity. The city's Quality of Life Task Force goes out into the community to help the homeless. They also look at abandoned buildings to make sure they're boarded up and no one is inside.
The city will take care of that. Even if somebody sees somebody in a building that we know that there shouldn't be anybody there, that's being reported and then that's being taken care of.
Chandler Walsh, Worcester News Tonight.
A local brewery making a name for itself on the national level. Worcester's own Wormtown Brewery took home a bronze medal in this year's World Beer Cup. They won in the Munich-style Helles beer category. Wormtown faced more than 100 other beers. The competition took place in Nashville, Tennessee, and only happens once every 2 years. The brewery won its first award at the event in 2012, taking home silver for their Pro AM Porter. A Human Rights and Disability City employee is honored for her work Wednesday. Dawn Clark is a disability intake worker in Worcester. She helped organize the city's Wheeling Through Worcester event, giving people a chance to experience what those in wheelchairs go through on a daily basis. Wednesday, she was presented the Eleanor Riik Service Award. The annual award is given to city employees who demonstrate outstanding service to city and its residents.
She has done such a great job, and I'm so thrilled that she's being recognized. A lot of times you work for the city of Worcester for many, many years without any recognition. She definitely deserves it. She gets along with everyone. She pulls people together. She's just an amazing asset to the city of Worcester.
The Public Services Division team of the Worcester Public Library was also presented the award.